Let's do a lesson on what a Notan is. So I have my drawing here of Raven. I'm going to show you what the Notan is that I used for this drawing, and then I'm going to show you how I draw the Notan and explain what it is I'm looking for, and also how we can train our eye to see a lot better when we're drawing by using a Notan. So traditionally, a Notan is it's a Japanese term based around contrast of light and dark. Within traditional art, what we use a Notan for is a way of simplifying things in a two-dimensional space in the very beginning of our drawing and just focusing on very simple shapes, angles, and values. I brought up my drawing of Raven. This is the completed drawing. Here's the full sketch. And so here's our digital Notan. And I'm just slowly bringing the opacity of the drawing back. And so we can see that cheekbone, the angles for the nose, where the darks are. He has a raven over his face that he painted, and we can see where that's even Notanned from drawing to Notan. Kind of neat to kind of see it from, we could just take a drawing, Notan of the drawing. And we can see where this simplifies so much of the composition, where we compose him on here, and then also where we're thinking about light and dark. So let me show you guys how I started this drawing with a Notan. You want to simplify those large shapes as much as you can as you're seeing. And so we're squinting a lot to really see where the light meets the dark. I preach this in classes when I'm painting from life, nonstop, to simplify. And I'm sure you guys have heard that from your own teachers, to simplify everything that you see and keep everything kind of blocked in for as long as possible, starting with the large shapes, moving into the smaller shapes and how they integrate with one another and how they're related to one another. I use a term called relative sizing to see how one shape fits next to another shape based on the context that that shape fits into. So I composed a picture. I'm using pan pastel right now, and a pan pastel stick, thinking about measuring the top of the head and thinking about just large angles and how they're related to one another. Angle of the nose. I'm going to kind of speed through this. This is a 3.5 hour demo that I had given as an online workshop. What's interesting, I'm doing this today because I actually found the painting workshop that I gave that was a 6-hour painting workshop. And I actually just posted that on my Patreon page for the members of the Patreon, the paid members, to check out. And that was 6 hours of a workshop that I gave. And this was the actual drawing that I had done before I did the painting of Raven. So again, thinking about these large shapes and large angles. Drawing from my arm, from the elbow, and using the whole arm versus thinking about it as a pencil. And that's what's great about the pan pastel, is that you can use the angle of the pan pastel to get these really beautiful straight lines. And it also kind of forces you not to think about things from the point of your pencil. So you're thinking broadly and you're thinking like a painter. So you're drawing it as if you're painting it, which is something that I love about pan pastel. Really looking back and forth. Now, having the Notan kind of does the squinting for you a little bit. I'm still squinting to see where edges are. And I'll show you guys a little bit later in this lesson where the what I think about within the Notan and the straight angular lines that I use when I draw based on the Notan. Now, if you guys want to try this, you can join the Patreon for free. And if you go over there, there'll be a link in the description and you can download this reference of Raven there for free. Just become a member, which is my kind of unofficial mailing list, which I don't post very often to. So we're going to kind of zoom through here a little bit. Again, thinking about where we composed, where he's going to sit, the large mass of him within our paper. Now I'm thinking about the orbital cavity and the structure of that. So that's my anchor point, is these eyes. And from there I can see how things are triangulated by going up and down the form from the eyes. Now I'm armed with a pencil eraser, a Factus BM2 from Generals, that I can clean up any of the edges of the pan pastel that kind of go awry on me. Thinking about that angle, all measuring out essentially from the eyes now. I have my anchor points, and then I move down and I measure out. That's the M, C-A-M, cam. Compose, anchor, find an anchor point within your drawing. If it's a full figure, I use the torso, which is essentially almost in the center of the figure for the most part. Same as the eyes are somewhat in the center of the face. And then I move up and down from that area. Measure up, measure down. Compose, anchor, and measure. Just a quick acronym just to kind of make sure you don't go ahead of steps. Thinking about those angles. Once I start to develop the angles, I start to think about the Notan in terms of flat color shapes. Now you'll notice that I'm still using straight angular lines here. Thinking about that edge right there, how that leads in. That's the shadow behind him. And I'm, again, using the flat end of the pan pastel really makes it so we can kind of fill in an area really fast. Now I'm getting that I have everything in the right place, essentially the large masses. Then I can go into and get very picky about the straight angular lines that make up the Notan. And this is really challenging, but as a way to train your eye to be able to see how an angle comes across in the distance of that angle, where it hits another straight line of an angle, and understanding that structure is really key to the bones of what it is when we think about drawing from life or drawing realistically. Is because an edge can have so many different moves and breaks to it, points. There could be bone underneath that skin, or could be fatty tissue under the skin. It could be an obtuse angle going into the distance. It could be a really sharp edge going into the distance. And so edges change along different contours within forms, as well as contours within the outside edge of our figure going into space. It's a lot to think about. Here's a close-up. And right here I'm using a mono tombow, but the one that's a little chunky, it looks almost like it's got a chisel tip to the top. And I love these for really kind of cleaning up my edges, because I really want to stay true to the reference as much as possible. The reference that is the Notan. Really shaping up those edges, how this pulls up. And so where you'll see that little X that's in the forehead, those are like my starter lines with the pan pastel. And then I go in and clean up all my edges with a general pencil. This is a medium soft lead. I say lead in quotes because it's not lead, it's charcoal. Lead is for graphite. And just, you can see where I kind of tap, hover over an area, double check, how's that angle? And then, okay, I go straight down. Okay, check that angle. Where does this meet? I call that taking a trip around the form, where I'm seeing how one area is related to another before I actually make that mark. And my head is basically on a swivel, looking for answers to really simple questions that I ask myself as I draw. Is this too long or too short? Is this angle look a little bit sharper or steeper, or is it got more of a gradual angle? And if I draw this angle, where does that intersect with what part of another angle? That's the triangulating what it is that I'm working on. Getting these flat puzzle pieces essentially in the beginning with a Notan, we're not really thinking about form all that much, except in layering and value in a very basic way again. But understanding how these flat puzzle pieces kind of fit together, and then really machining those edges so that they're very fine and they fit really closely together. And this is really hard stuff, but it's such a useful exercise. So I definitely would love for you guys to try this at home. And again, an easy way is I have the Notan on Patreon for free. Definitely check that out if you want to try this at home. You can print this out to the size of a sketchbook, and you can just bring this anywhere you go on vacation. It's kind of fun. Just sit and draw those angles. And you can see how having a structure that's already established like this, going in with value on top of this and really start to think about cross contouring, which is another lesson I'm going to do in a video shortly, probably later on this week. Cross contouring across the form, and how those pieces are just so easy to do once we have essentially the borders to our forms. So each form has a border, which is its contour by definition. And to understand how we cross contour and knit across the form is a beautiful way of creating cohesive form that wraps around the structure of the face. Thanks so much for watching. If you got something out of this video, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps this channel to keep growing. I also want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel over on Patreon and here on YouTube. Your comments, shares, and encouragement really keep this community going and growing. If you want to dive deeper with full-length lessons and behind-the-scenes stuff from my studio, check out the Patreon community with the link in the description. It's been amazing to connect with so many artists over there. And if you're interested in learning to draw and paint with me in person, I have an ongoing list of upcoming in-person workshops. Just scan the QR code you see on the screen for all the details. I'm now streaming a live drawing session every Wednesday morning where we'll study history, composition, and techniques behind some of my favorite works from art history. It all starts at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, right here on YouTube. So grab some coffee, bring your sketchbook, and come hang out with me. It's a fun, low-pressure way to draw together and dive deep into some really great art in real time. Thanks again for being part of this journey with me. Paint well, and I'll see you in the next video. Or even better, I'll see you guys live on Wednesday morning. Take care.